Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Taking Charge of Your Career, presented by Dan Wellings from Heron. My name is Heron, and I'm the Director of Professional Development for BOMA, New York. I'll be your host for today. If you have any questions or technical difficulties, please send me a private message in the chat. For questions about today's presentation, please utilize the questions feature in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. You can ask questions throughout the presentation. However, we will be holding them until the end. And with that, I'll hand it over to Dan to get us started.
Thank you very much, Yara. Hi, everyone. Dan Wellings from Heron. I am a recruiter. I've worked in and recruited in commercial real estate staffing now for 16 years, coming up to 12 in New York now. I've had the pleasure of supporting and sourcing for some incredible buildings, developments, iconic assets across the US. I work for a firm called Heron. And we are a specialty staffing and employer of choice consultancy. I think the real thing to point out and why Heron was created was specifically to give back to industries like commercial real estate. I think it's incredibly important to do things like this from our end and provide perhaps insights and tips that aren't necessarily shared. And this is a great opportunity with Heron to be able to do that. But we provide all services across career development, staffing, of course, executive placements, retained, etc. This presentation is aimed to hopefully provide you those insights. I'll provide you all the tips and necessary advice on writing a resume, interviews, how to get the best out of your interviews, how to make your LinkedIn profile stand out, and really honestly make the most out of networking, albeit appreciate your members of BOMA already. So without further ado, again, a privilege and an honor to present to you all and to be a part of BOMA New York and the Professional Development Committee. So first kind of order of business would be, if we can get this going, would be, let's see, there we go, would be our resume. Come on, there we go. Right, resume advice. So I think this is probably going to be the most important, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the most important pieces of this presentation. Resumes are incredibly hard to write. You're not expected to be able to write a resume, so don't put that pressure on yourself. But these tips that I provide and the tips that you're seeing now will be able to give you and hopefully enable you to write the best resume to your ability that you can. A lot of it goes off, and again, if you're working separately to someone like myself and working with a recruiter, some of this isn't necessarily applicable. That person is obviously supporting that and advocating for you. But if you're applying to job listings yourself, this is going to be very important to know. So the first thing with resume is you want to lead with a summary that it presents your experience, your key skills, but just a couple of sentences. Nothing crazy, but it explains exactly what you do, right? Your background. If you're a property manager, you want it to read something along the lines of a property management professional specializing in management of Class A office, high rises, up to total square footage of 1.5 million, oversee budgets, team size of this, looking for an opportunity to get into a portfolio management role in my next role. Something very simple, short and sweet. Rule of thumb is that anyone that's looking at your resume is typically giving it 10 seconds to make any sort of impact. And if that stuff isn't obvious from the get-go as to why they are looking at your resume and going, you are a like for the role they're hiring, you're not honestly going to get a look in. Don't use a photo. I see this. No matter how good you look, it's just going to be it's offering up discrimination. You're allowing someone to make a judgment call based on how you look, and that's not needed. And that just gives whoever's looking at your resume the opportunity to maybe they've already come up or they've got an idea, and that is just changing that idea. Do not give the reader any sort of opportunity to be able to do that and discriminate. Incredibly important that, albeit I appreciate LinkedIn, and we'll go into that with profile pictures. again, that reading and getting that resume to the reader as quickly as possible. Put it in bullet point forms. You want to make this info as easy and quickly to understand. And versus a paragraph of sentences, the person is having to read that. You want it short, sweet, concise. Bam, bam, bam. This is my experience. And again, on that, you want to focus, and in that writing, I'll explain what you should have in that, but it should focus specifically on your skills, your experience. Don't worry about the one page rule. I speak to a lot of folks that won't fill out, they'll stick to the one page, and you find out that half of their experience is not represented, and it gives a completely different picture. Resumes are very subjective, but you need to tell your experience and have your story on there. And if it goes over one page, so be it. Like, you need to represent yourself to the full ability that you can. 2 pages, 3 pages, if you've got the experience there and the points are relevant to your experience, you're not just talking, waffling on, so to speak, it will be important. But I did need I think it's important to know that the one page rule isn't necessarily applicable if you are getting that experience out. The biggest thing that I find, and this is probably the most important piece to your resume and writing it, emphasize your successes using specific quantifiable data. A lot of the time, resumes will read like a job description, and a lot of the points are what I would assume a property manager is doing, right? I'm overseeing a building. I manage teams. I'm responsible for the budgets, for the P&L, supported CapEx project, whatever it may be, right? You need it to be descriptive. You want to reference the name. You want to reference the size of the buildings that you're managing. You want it to show exact tangible figures to your experience. Managed I don't know, 1 million square foot ABC tower located in Midtown Manhattan, Class A office. Share exact budget figures. Well, not exact to the dollar, right? But it gives the reader an understanding of the sort of monies and the sort of financial responsibilities, capabilities you've had. Oversaw a budget of $1 million, right? I oversaw a team, precise numbers, oversaw a team of 19, including 3 property administrators, 4, assistant property managers, a team of 10 engineering. You want to be specific. And likewise, in the language of kind of directing, led the team of 15 engineers. You want to illustrate those results with impactful statistics, right? Increased occupancy rates by 20% over 2 years, right? It's actual specific results that you have achieved that's listed then in your resume as to what you're doing. And still your title could be property manager, at said company. It just gives it's as much a piece of paper can. It gives the reader a true picture, if you will, of your experience, your capabilities. It also shows your passion. The way you write and come across, the way you're talking about your experience also shows that you're an expert and you're knowledgeable about that because of the way you're writing it. So it's only going to benefit you. And likewise, those skills related to throughout that, you want to throw in words related to commercial real estate. You want to put in words related to the software proficiency or the softwares that you use at your current firm. You want to talk about and highlight, if you've done market analysis, where, what location, what did that consist of? Like the financial modeling, if you've done that, what did you use? You want to include all that specific info throughout that. The other piece to it that's incredibly important, and again, just you don't see this too much, is just, and it sounds so simple, just make sure the resume is in the same format, right? Same font. If you're using the same font size, make sure it's that throughout. A lot of the time, you're just, and again, busy, but size 10 here, the next paragraph is size 12. It just looks awkward, and you want it to all follow suit. And likewise with spelling. Again, it sounds simple, but triple check the spelling in the resumes. Like, too often I see spelling mistakes in resumes. And again, that level of attention to detail is required in your role, right? If you're in property management or commercial real estate, you're required to have that level of attention to detail. And honestly, again, the resume is like that first kind of showing what, how good is your attention to detail, honestly. And that's how some folks will look at it when requiring that as their job. Something that I think is important to mention, because I get this a lot, is tailoring the resume to a specific job, and incorporating the words from the job listing. If you are doing what you are doing, let's say you're an engineer and you're applying for the chief engineer role, um, you don't really have to do that, because technically your experience should be that of an engineer, and the most obvious step is going up. Now, the way that some of these job listings work is they'll only pick certain words from that, and if that word isn't in your resume, you're not going to get picked up. It's very frustrating, and unfortunately, that's how the algorithms work these days. So it's important to have some of those keywords and kind of more common, obvious words that you might see within that job description. And it could be as simple as Class A office, Class A. So go through it, make sure that obviously you have relevance. Um, it makes your resume more noticeable, but also the ATS, right? The application tracking systems that these jobs and companies use, and the hiring managers will typically just go for that. So that's my best piece of advice on resume writing, and sort of tips and that sort of thing. Again, any questions, type them in, and we can answer those at the end. Um, so I think off the back of that, and I think a really good segue is career advancement as a whole, right? And you, this webinar, right, taking charge of your career. Um, Whenever and I run, I've run very large, and I've run staffing teams, and been heavily involved in, both my own career advancement and helping those, right, to advance their careers. And this advice is some of the best advice I could give to anyone that's in that situation, and perhaps wanting to or start that conversation. Um, the resume is perfect off the back of writing the resume, because it allows you to keep and maintain an up-to-date record of your achievements. Um, it allows you to be equipped so that you can confidently present all of that to leadership, but it will make a real impact to whoever you're talking to, whether that's the hiring manager or that leader. You want to provide concrete evidence of your performance and how that aligns with your success and the company goals. Always turn up over prepared, right? With ever, again, manager, leader, if you're having these sort of conversations where it's around your career and how can I progress, you want to come with as much ammo as possible. You want to come with more ammo than perhaps is necessary, because if you are asked, you can relay and show, well, I did this, I achieved this is how much we saved here. And again, it just backs up everything, and it shows that you're completely on it, off the back of having updated your resume to think about some of those successes. Um, Something that goes amiss is regularly ask your manager for constructive feedback, right? You need to be, and pester them, right? If they're a good leader or a good manager, they're going to want their team members to be doing this to them, because it shows that person is wanting to progress, and grow, right? But always ask your manager. Don't be afraid. If you're afraid to do that, then that's a different story, right? In a different environment you're in. But you want to always ask for feedback. You need to be knowing how you are doing in order to do better, right? Is there areas that you can do better in and learn, right? That's only going to help you progress. Um, and likewise, off the back of that, right, keep up with the latest trends, right? Understand, and again, the BOMA New York events are fantastic for that, because you're learning the up-to-date trends and the most, the topics that everyone's wanting to talk about. But you then learn kind of different pathways, perhaps other ways. You can learn other ways of perhaps getting into commercial real estate that you weren't necessarily aware of. And likewise, getting in your RPA and similar certificates, getting into seminars and workshops where you're learning new things you didn't, is only going to better you. It's as simple as that. Again, you're part of this, right? Connect with as many people as you can in the industry. Like, go to these events, right? If you get an opportunity to go to a BOMA event, go to it, right? Join real estate groups. Participate in online forums. And I'll talk a little bit about how you can do that with LinkedIn. The more noise you're making about that and wanting to learn is only going to get you noticed by whoever you're surrounding yourself with. If you can find yourself a mentor, someone who's been there and done it, right, and who's willing to give back, and there are plenty throughout BOMA, that will guide you and give you that feedback, and you can ask questions to them, then even better, right? If someone that you can connect with has already gone through exactly the career path that you're looking for, albeit that those careers might have changed or how to get them, you're only going to again better yourself, and you're willing for yourself to do that. Right for Think about, and I guess off the back of this, in this commercial real estate that you're really interested in, or you're really focused in, or you don't do in your day job now, but you would love to, right? Look up online, who's writing about, who's talking about them, right? Who's talking about them on LinkedIn? Can you join magazines? Can you write for these magazines yourself, right? Can you get involved in panels and give something to the same topic? And then you're also learning at the same time, and building out your own reputation. And another big piece to it, and again, quite easy in this day and age, is the regular interaction on LinkedIn. Connecting with industry professionals, sharing insightful posts. There's a bit of, oh, is anyone going to care if I post this? Kind of like, honestly, who cares? Like you need to kind of get that out there. If you're passionate about something, you won't be posting something for the sake of it, hopefully, right? You'll be generally hoping that it helps someone. Comment right on people's posts, do likes, build, you'll be building a reputation as someone that is an engaged and knowledgeable participant in the commercial real estate field online via LinkedIn, right? And that just goes a long way in this space, particularly when you're talking about trying to advance your own career. Right, the old next one. Right, techniques, interview techniques, both virtual and in person. As you can see there on the slide, a couple of them are obviously applicable to both, right? It sounds, and again, these sound really simple. It sounds easy, it's a virtual interview, right? They're not. Interviewing is incredibly hard, especially if you haven't had to do it in a while. There's a lot of pressure. You don't know what the person's going to be saying to you, right? It's a tough one. So hopefully these allow you to get the best and the most out of your interviews. But you need to do that, right? Interviewing is as much a company or person looking to hire and therefore screen you, but it's also as much as you wanting to figure out if that's the right opportunity for you and the next right move for you. So it's important that you make the most out of it, and these tips certainly will. So virtual interviews, again, sounds silly, right? Start the interview, download the app. If you haven't used the app before, click the link, start it 15, 20 minutes before, right? You want to make sure that everything's good, the connection's reliable. You don't want to be starting 2 minutes after, or the connection's fuzzy, you end up having a phone call, right? All because you could have checked it 5 minutes before, 10, 15, do it 15 minutes before. Again, choose a good space to talk and have the interview somewhere quiet. You're not going to get interrupted or distracted. Now, I appreciate in your roles, you're on the go. Again, if you need to have the interview in your car, that's okay. Just make the person be aware. As long as everyone is on the same page and aware, look, apologies, I'm actually running between buildings, or I'm on site today, or that's okay. Just make the person be aware of it, and it will go fine. Wear professional attire, again, in turn, attending a virtual. Same applies clearly for in person. If you're researching the company, maybe you've had a phone call. It's a good question to ask, but you can get a sense of perhaps what to wear. But always wear professional attire to virtually interview. And honestly, again, common sense applied. You know what people are wearing when you go to a BOMA event, but you want to give that professional, and honestly, it's always better to be overdressed than underdressed for any interview, whether it's virtual or in person. Have your resumes, notes, and questions on hand. Just don't look like you're reading it throughout. You want to engage with the camera, right? The next point, maintain eye contact. You want to have topics and reminders, right, to have, and again, get the most out. You just don't want to be doing this the whole time and going, yeah, no, so what else do you, and just not paying any attention to the camera, because same thing when you meet someone in person, you shake their hand, you look at them in the eye. Again, it's trying to achieve that virtually as best you can. In person, so always be 10, 15 minutes early, even if you're waiting outside and you're waiting for another 10 minutes over time. It just shows something to both the people that have shown you to your seat or reception, but also the person waiting for you. It seems obvious, silly, but lots of people just don't do it. Again, wear professional attire, wear the suit, or not. Understand, again, do your research and understand what to wear. But just have some common sense about it, right? Take extra resumes. This is an interesting one. Again, people have resumes on laptops, on their phones versus paper quality. I would just have something on hand, whether it is via your phone, just in case the person that's interviewing you doesn't have it. You don't want to be caught short, and then they haven't got it, and you haven't got it, and then you're just, well, I'll tell you about it, and it just, so always have something on hand that you've got is my best advice. And look, if you've got a piece of paper or a portfolio with your resumes in it, it's easy just to take that out, right, and explain, etc. I've touched upon this: firm handshakes, eye contact. Um, this is a really big one, particularly more so. But I think if in commercial real estate, if you can visit the building or the company HQ, or just get a sense of the environment beforehand, it will go such a long way. It kind of leads into that small talk, or if you're meeting with your interviewer, or you're in the elevator and, oh, I noticed that you've got this incredible art installation in the lobby. Oh, you've been here before, like it just gives that sense that you've taken time out of it to really research the role in the building. You might have seen that there's 4 reception desks, and 3 of them are manned and 1 wasn't, or one of them's really busy and the 3 weren't. Bring that up, right? It just shows your attention to detail, and that you're already noticing things, and that you've taken the time again to go that extra mile. Um, Always a big thing. Well, I would always send a personalized thank you note 24 hours after meeting that person. You might not have their email. Sometimes you can figure out name dot last name at, and go on the website and it's .com. You can go on LinkedIn, right? Maybe find them on LinkedIn, message them, and just say thank you for your time. If you really can't find, if you're working with a recruiter and the manager is okay for them to use their email, again, then they can give that permission. But it is important just to relay thank you for your time. It was great to meet with you. Off the back of meeting with you, I thought about this, but it just shows again that kind of connection, and that you're serious. And just for both, again, sounds silly. Always have good, insightful questions to ask at the end. You want to be listening throughout the interview, so you don't want the hiring manager or the interviewee the interviewer to ask these questions and you just weren't listening, and then that person's like, well, I already answered all of this. But you want good questions to show your expertise, as much as, again, questions can, in your ability to understand the position. You don't want to leave an interview going, have you got any questions? No. There's always something that you're going to leave that room going, oh, I should have asked that, right? So again, just take the time to figure what those questions could be. If he or she answers them prior, great. If they don't, then you ask them, right? And to get that out. Again, it's going back to understanding the role, the company, as much as you can, in order to work out if that role is for you as well. And likewise, prior, look up who you're meeting with, right? Did you have the same experience? Did you go to the same school? Did you there's lots of like for likes that perhaps, again, with that small talk, or when you meet for the first time, that you can bring up, and it will really, it just shows that connection off the bat. That again, these are simple things that you think one would do, that just doesn't really happen in this day and age. So these are incredibly important. Right. How to get the best out of networking. So I think this was really important to bring this up. Obviously, you're all part of BOMA New York, so you all have been to events or want to network, enjoy networking. I think there is and look, I've worked in a sales environment for a number of years, and I think the way sales perceives networking is slightly different, and not always a good thing. Um, but networking is an incredible asset, particularly in a space like commercial real estate. And I think the biggest piece of advice I can give to anyone in networking, whether they've just started out, they've never gone to an event, or every event they go to is with 10 of their co-workers or friends, and nothing really happens from it other than some free booze, like, just take that pressure off, right? I've been to events where someone will just get me a drink and give me a card, and then they can go back the next day and show that they've got a business card from someone. Like, there's no benefit to that. I don't remember you. There's no conversation that's had, right? If you're just going there and wanting to just learn and understand the topics at hand, see who's at these events, see the regular faces, see who's talking to who, right? Don't necessarily put that pressure on, I have to leave here having spoken to 5 people. Just understand what the industry is talking about, who's doing what. Like, you're only going to advance, again, your knowledge and expertise from doing that, rather than going, oh no, I got to shake hands, and if I don't, it was a terrible evening, when actually you could think about some of the things you actually did get from it. So I do think that's very important, and kind of observing and learning who's who at your own pace. Research attendees, speakers, organizers, right? Find out who is going to be speaking, right? Can you grab them and say, hello, that was great. Oh, I noticed you came from here. And again, it just shows that you're passionate about the space and that you're generally interested in building relationships. This again sounds a little simple, but have an idea of your pitch. And you don't need an elevated sales pitch, right? But just a sentence of who and what you do, right? You want to know instantly that person. Again, everyone's wanting to grab said person or people. You just want to make it count, within that first kind of 10 to 30 seconds. My name is this is what I do, and I work for here, and I wanted to connect with you because like for like ABC, right? It's very obvious as to why we're all in the same space anyway with commercial real estate. And again, people who want to network are there for the same reasons, hopefully. Connect on LinkedIn, check out the event apps. Obviously, you get an idea of who's attending. Check them out, go on LinkedIn and just connect with them. And I sent you a connection request. Would love to speak further off the back of you talking about this, right? Ask open-ended questions. What I mean by that is questions that don't give a yes or no response, right? Explain to me, describe to me, tell me, right? Like, again, you're then wanting to learn, right, and take in information. You're doing things that you're just trying to understand other people's needs. You're not going in, I do this, and I can solve everything, right? You're understanding what they do and ultimately seeing then if you can help them or not, right? It doesn't have to be a deal right there and then, right? That's not, if you're thinking that way, it's you're not going to get the best out of it. Follow-up messages once you've met with people. Great time. Again, sounds simple. Really great meeting you. Appreciate your 5 minutes. I know how busy you are. Would love to connect at the next BOMA event. Right? Simple things like this just go a long, long way. And then they go, I met so-and-so and they were fantastic. They forwarded me this great email. You should speak to them. It's just, again, it kind of sets the tone for how you are, how passionate you are, how you're coming across. And off the back of that, the more you get involved, right? Can you contribute? Right? Can you talk at future events? Is there something that you're passionate within the CRE space that you can then go, oh, by the way, well, no one talks about this. I'd love to mention this. Right? Are there other groups or committees you can get involved in, which is only going to advance you, propel you pretty much in every possible way within this awesome industry. Right. And I think the last point I wanted to certainly mention, LinkedIn profiles. Again, like, you want an up-to-date LinkedIn profile. I know some, you want it to stand out. You want it to be effective. Some folks are even looking at that. You're obviously applying to jobs on LinkedIn, and that is via your LinkedIn profile. So you really want it to stand out. Likewise with your resume, there's some easy kind of things and these tips that I'm sharing now that will allow you to really get the most out of your profile. I know folks that are even just using profiles versus resumes, right? And that's not going, don't worry, resumes aren't going anywhere. But again, it's just that extra kind of piece outside of your LinkedIn interaction that you're highlighting and advocating for yourself within the CRE industry. So always use a clear, professional, up-to-date headshot. You want it to be relevant. You want it to look like yourself, right? Particularly if you're applying jobs through LinkedIn, it again goes back to being a bit of common sense. Don't just list your job title, right? In that heading below your name, put exactly a bit of special, again, goes back to that detail on the resume. Highlight your expertise, what it is you do, Class A property management expertise of assets over 1 million square foot or 2 million, I don't know, a development, 6 million square foot development, right? You want to highlight that stuff off the bat and again, use those keywords. Likewise, you have the summary section and the experience piece. You want to put relevant words, again, like your resume within that, right? Copy a summary from your resume, right? And put that in that LinkedIn page of experience. It's going to have the keywords in there that are going to get picked up, right? If you're an office property management professional, you want Class A office, you want the square footage, you want to talk about, like, even highlight tenants, right? All of that stuff is keywords as to how you will get picked up on your LinkedIn profile. And likewise, there's a featured section. Not many people use this, but but it's a really good way of putting in some of your standout projects, right? Some of the maybe deals that you've been maybe involved in, some acquisitions or deals, and you want to put that in. But it's a really good way of presenting that detail. And honestly, anything else, kind of like I've put commercial real estate related, right, that you've contributed to, again, to show off as much as you can that you're advocating, you're passionate, and you're an expert in this space. Another thing I don't see too much of, again, it's almost like, oh, I've got to ask for something. If you do a good job, ask for it, right? If you've generally done a good job, that person should have no worry or concern in writing a good review or recommendation. But there is a section at the bottom of your LinkedIn profile that allows you to get those, and you click the little pen and you can write or ask for people to recommend you, right? Or write recommendations for other people. Again, ask away. Like, if you can get various folks, whether it's in your company that you've done or other, if you've worked with other owners or operators or supported tenants, and they can put a little short and sweet, it's only going to help bolster your profile up. And likewise, similar to what I've talked about, but again, something that's just going to massively improve your LinkedIn profile is that regular interaction. If you're seeing, liking stuff, if you're commenting on peers' posts, on companies' posts, and on BOMA's posts, like, you'll be regularly seen doing that interaction, involved in the space. It's only going to propel you, and you're only going to be seen as someone that's, like I keep saying, an expert, passionate, wants to learn and progress their career themselves within the commercial real estate space. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of kind of honestly the kind of the four kind of main areas that I would certainly look at when you're looking to advance your career or find a job right now. You might be in the middle of a job hunt right now. So hopefully this made a lot of sense. I know we'll have some questions, and I know Tiara will obviously announce, but I am available to connect as well off the back of this. Anyone who's got any questions around resume, I appreciate I've got an accent and I tend to speak a little fast. So if anyone's got any questions I didn't understand or just wants to have me reiterate, I'm all ears. As I said, I'm incredibly passionate about commercial real estate. I've worked in it for a long time. I don't do your job, but I like to think I have a good idea of how I can help support you in your career and progression. I'm very privileged to work in this space, and like I said at the beginning, I've been very, very honoured to be allowed and present some of this stuff to you now. So hopefully it's helped. But yeah, Tiara, I know we've got any questions, or let's have a look.
So we don't have any questions right now, but for anyone who's on, if you have a question about any of the slides or any of the information that Dan presented, please ask away. Again, you can utilize the question feature in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. So we'll give everyone a couple of minutes to ask any questions that they have currently. If you can't think of it now, that's perfectly fine.
Like I said, anything later, I'm all ears. Apparently the chat isn't letting people type.
So I do see a couple of questions. Carolina, great job, Dan. Thank you, Carolina.
But if not,
okay. We do have a question from Greg. How do you suggest breaking into a new sector of CRE, like making a switch from, let's say, residential to commercial?
great question. Was that Greg you said?
Yeah.
Great question. Yeah. So I think it's an interesting one because look, if you're in residential and you're moving to commercial, there's normally a reason, right? Because they are two very different industries. But said firms might own resi commercial. They're not just a resi or an office owner or operator. But I think you have to, in order to do something like that, I think you need to connect with as many, if you're in residential, connect with as many folks as you can within commercial real estate, right? It's quite rare and hard to do that. But I think if you're connecting, again, advocating, and for as much as you can, going to these events, honestly being transparent about your story, right? This is my experience in residential. I'm wanting to get into commercial because of A, B, and C. Again, the networking piece, showing up, everyone in this space that I've met, everyone is incredibly helpful and will be able to at least provide some sort of guidance or advice into to their best way as well. But that's what I'd say. Get involved as much as you can within the CRE space and connect with as many people as you can to let them know what you're trying to do.
Helpful. We have another question from Anna. Hi, Dan. Amazing presentation. You say to have a question at the end of an interview, but how about if the conversation is organic with questions throughout? What would you ask then?
Yeah, great. I would, so in this instance, you want to come, before going into the interview, you want to come up with at least a minimum of 10 questions that you would want to know as being successful in this role. Now, hopefully, honestly, the best interviews are organic ones. So at any point where you're having that organic conversation, most of the things that you might be asking, and look, if you're in the role and you're already doing it and it's a logical progression, you're going to know these questions off the top of your head, right? Because you've been doing the role and you're in the business. So if the interview organically happens and you get given the answers because of the conversation, fantastic, right? If there's any point where you think everything's been answered, right, and you get to a stage at the end, ask them about themselves, right? I mean this in the nicest possible way, but people love talking about themselves. So if you start going, well, look, you didn't tell me, and hopefully people give a little introduction, but you can say, well, how do you like the company, right? What's the best thing about working for the company that you like, right? Again, you're engaging them on a different level. You're continuing that organic conversation, right? Because it's not, oh, so what would you know, it's not that typical interview question, and it shows that you're interested about that person. Now, perhaps they've already told you their background, but again, like that's what my point is. You will walk away thinking of something that you could have asked. Why do you like it? How long have you been here? Like, what's the best thing about the best person? Like honestly, what's the best thing about working in the business? Why do you think that? What's the best building in your portfolio and why? There's always going to be something that you could ask that will just advocate for you, show you your expertise and passion without that typical interview, like what's the culture like, or like, hopefully that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you. Any other questions?
Any more?
Any trends from John? Any trends you're seeing in the industry? Any specific talents?
From like job wise and things. I mean, right now, I mean, it's interesting. It's kind of two things. Well, three. You've got a lot of developments. Like you've got this community development piece going on, right, nationally, globally. What can the developments, what can these real estate organizations give back to the places that they're in? I think that naturally stems from what's happened over the last 5, 6 years anyway, right? But it's really about the community piece, and really involving those developments assets into the community, right? The people on the street, but also the other organizations on there. We're also seeing an interesting, it's kind of what office is looking like. There's this old age, what is the office? Is it going to be the class A? Is it going to be the class, 4 years ago, everyone's saying that class A was going to have the medical, going to be all in hazmat suits going to work and all of this, right? And then it was like, what's the experience? How can we get our employees to stay? And I think then we saw an increase in class B, right? Office leasing was the highest it's been the year before. So and people are caring more about closer to work and not necessarily being in a class A office, right? So there's a lot of interesting things going on right now, but I think the biggest thing is that community piece, is that how can whatever asset or development, how can we tie that into the community, and what does that look like? So what engagement, what can we do that's going to provide and better the community, education? That's the sort of things I'm seeing really high up, and folks that are kind of bringing that strategy about, and kind of thinking of those sort of ways to incorporate their portfolios or buildings, or that's going big at the moment. You get me talking all day on stuff like that, but
And then as a recruiter, specific to talent, are you seeing any trends regarding talent in the industry?
Um, with regards to people, so I guess the one thing you're seeing, I mean, you're seeing a big piece on folks, I guess, as it pertains to talent on customer experience, right? So when you're particularly on the retail property management side, right, and the clienteling and you're getting a lot of that focus now on. And it's been a focus, but it's shifted with how kind of COVID shifted in that idea. But on really the experience that the tenants or the people that are coming, right, the foot traffic that are coming in the building, and folks that understand that and come from that world and are able to show that, whether you're a property administrator or overseeing a portfolio, right, and have led that strategy, seems to be the thing. You've also got this, and this is something that I don't think is going to die out anytime soon, but you have this kind of asset management play, right? But again, you kind of get this difference of folks not necessarily knowing or having a different opinion of what asset management is, and it's kind of financial, kind of sexy thing, right? Whereas again, different companies will look at it very differently. Um, but I think, yeah, the hottest trend right now is from hiring and what they're looking for is not necessarily experience. Personality is huge. Um, Willing to learn, right? The best people always want to learn and grow and progress, and showing that. But I think coming from that experience, that customer experience, like how can I provide the best service to you as a tenant or owner or as an operator, and having that because of, I don't know, you worked retail, or you're just big on customer experience, right? You come across like that in your personality. That's definitely something that we're seeing and something that's highlighted from folks that are wanting to hire. So hopefully that answers it, maybe.
Yeah, that's great.
Any more for any more?
Mm. Any more questions out there? We don't have any more questions. So, oh, wait, one more.
Oh,
Oh, no questions. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. Before you go, I did drop a survey link in the chat. If you guys could follow that link, I'll also send it via email if you're unable to grab it now, if you're on your phone. But thank you again for joining today's webinar. Please feel free to reach out to myself or Dan with any additional questions or with your feedback and comments. Thank you.
thank you very much.